Okay, Senator Esteves, you've been on the front lines of running a small business. What lessons from that experience do you believe would help you in the governor's mansion?
Yeah, so I want to make sure that people have a good sense of who I am and my small businesses. Mm-hmm. And first and foremost, I'm someone who's from Columbus, Georgia. My wife is from Albany, and we love this region of the state. And when we were looking to start our own business and build our own wealth, because both of us worked in corporate America for over a decade, we were looking at where we can invest money and help a community that needed it the most. And we started in Atlanta with our own neighborhood, where my wife opened an urgent care. She's a nurse practitioner, and she opened in the middle of the pandemic. So it was a busy time for her. But the clinic also did better than expected because of the pandemic. And then as we decided what to do next, because you want to grow what you're building, we thought that food and a restaurant would be the next step. And when we reached out to the Flying Biscuit Cafe, which we own, the one here in Columbus, the Flying Biscuit told us, well, Atlanta's full, but are there any other parts of the Southeast that you're interested in? And immediately Columbus came to mind. And in fact, I started asking my family members who live in Columbus, including my cousin Kayla, about where they went to breakfast, where they had a good meal for brunch. And when I told them about what I was thinking, they immediately said, hey, we would love that down here in Columbus. So to the extent you're thinking about it, you should do it. So what I decided to do is we were looking at the different places where we could put the Flying Biscuit here in Columbus. We had a couple different options. We could have gone to the north side, mm-hmm. where there were a lot of folks telling us to go up there. But we decided to invest in downtown Columbus. An area where, when I was growing up, you didn't go downtown. You stayed away from downtown. But we wanted to invest in the revitalization of the downtown area, because if you want a vibrant city, you have to have a strong, vibrant downtown. So we intentionally put that business in downtown Columbus. We did the same thing opening our second Flying Biscuit in Macon. We easily could have opened it off Bass Road, and if you know Macon, Georgia, you know a lot of the development, just like in Columbus, has been going on the north side of Macon. And people, again, were saying you should go to the north side of Macon. What did we do? We opened the Flying Biscuit in downtown Macon, an area that continues to grow and is coming back. And we want to be part of that development. Why is that important to being in the governor's office? Because in Georgia, we've made a lot of progress, but there are far too many people and far too many areas that have been left behind. And Georgia deserves a governor that will intentionally look to areas of this state that have been ignored and look at ways to support those areas so that those folks have the opportunities to thrive just like everyone else. And I know that, having been from Columbus, knowing parts of Southwest Georgia well, I know that South Georgia has been ignored for far too long. In fact, when you look at the development that has happened in the state, it's happened along the coast, it's happened in North Georgia, not so much in South Georgia. That's going to change when I'm governor. The second thing is that when I look at my budget, when I look at how I do the financials for my business, it's all about making sure that you don't let problems get bigger, that you invest on the front end to solve problems, and you don't put Band-Aids on it, because if you put Band-Aids on it, those issues are going to grow into bigger problems that are going to be much more expensive to solve. When you look at Georgia, we have a lot of problems that are under the surface. Some of them have come to light. Whether you're talking about our healthcare crisis, whether you're talking about our affordable housing crisis, you talk about our senior care crisis. There are a lot of issues that we've been placing Band-Aids over for the last decade. And the more we wait, the more expensive it's going to be for taxpayers to fix. I'm going to be a governor that's going to solve those issues and address the root causes, because not only is it the right thing to do right by our people and do right by Georgians, but it's the most cost-effective thing to address issues on the front end versus letting them wait and get out of control.
All right. Okay, so from your perspective as a business owner, what are the biggest challenges facing small businesses in Georgia today?
Yeah, so I think break that question down into two parts. The first problem that many small business owners have, especially black small business owners, is access to capital. We don't have the access to open and grow our businesses. So we need to make sure that the state of Georgia is doing all that it can to provide small business owners, like the folks in this room and the folks watching online, access to capital that they need. And for those thinking, well, how is that possible? There are community development investment organizations or financial institutions that are CDFIs that are providing capital that need more support. The state of Georgia has its own mechanisms to provide low interest capital, low interest loans for small business owners and entrepreneurs. And when you look at what we've done for big out-of-state corporations like Hyundai, for example, the state of Georgia has handed out a lot of money. And if you look at the Hyundai development, for example, more than a couple $2 billion were given to that company to bring 7,500 jobs. The governor believes that there will be a halo effect and there will be more than 12,000 jobs in that development. In my mind, that's about $3 to $4 billion that was spent for, let's give them a benefit of about 15,000 jobs. My plan is to invest in small business owners and entrepreneurs. And I believe strongly that if we establish a fund, let's call it $1 billion of low interest loans. It's not a handout. We're not giving it to people. We're giving them access to low interest capital, that we can create somewhere between 30 to 50,000 jobs. If you do the math and you do the comparison, investing in Georgia, investing in Georgians and our entrepreneurs and our small business environment will yield much better results. Not only that, but the money that those small businesses earn stays right here in the state. The communities that those small businesses invest in are communities that big businesses wouldn't necessarily go. That's the kind of vision that we need the governor of this state to have. The second thing that we need to look at with small businesses is workforce. As owner of a couple of restaurants, it is incredibly challenging to get a workforce that is ready, is reliable to do the work. And we need to do what we can to prepare the workforce of the future. But we also need to do what we can to take care and ensure that our workforce has the support that it needs. Because when you look at why people call in to work, and for those of you who are business owners, you know this well, they call in because they don't have childcare. Mm-hmm. They can't afford it. They call in because they don't have transportation because they can't afford to live close to where they work. Or they call in because they don't have the health care that they need to stay healthy in order to work. Those are all issues that the state of Georgia and the governor is tasked with addressing. So as governor, I plan on addressing these issues so that our small business owners not only have a well-trained workforce, but has a workforce that is safe and healthy and able to come into work each and every day to make everyone money so that we all prosper. So for me, this is, again, an issue where it's about community building, but it's also about making sure that our state prospers economically.
All right, kind of piggybacking off of that previous question, as far as challenges that small business owners have, one of the areas that we hear a lot about is red tape, permits, licensing, business filings. How would you simplify regulations surrounding those concerns?
Red tape. There's a lot of it, and we got to cut it back. We have to do what we can to cut regulations, and I've seen that firsthand. I've seen it with opening my restaurants. I've seen it with opening the urgent care that my wife has. That oftentimes we make it harder for small business owners to open their business than it is to have a large corporation expand their operations, right? That doesn't make much sense because those large corporations have more resources. Mm-hmm. They can handle a lot of the complicated regulations. We can't, right? We have to navigate those systems ourselves. And too often we have local and county and state government making money off of this, making you fill out the paperwork and pay the fee in order for you to get the license or to get the certification that you need. So we have to take a look at what we're doing to our small business owners and reducing the regulations and reducing the paperwork that they have to fill out just to serve the community. And if you're looking for someone who understands as well, not only from a personal business perspective, but also from a professional perspective, what I used to do for over a decade, I practiced law. I'm a lawyer, and I worked in-house at a company, and my job was vice president of regulatory affairs. I've seen how you have to have a balance between regulations and businesses and their business, and how when you balance the two, you move forward. But when you have too much regulation, you can actually hold back businesses, which when you hold back businesses, it hurts consumers. When you don't have any regulation, then you have some business owners, none in this room, obviously, who take advantage of those consumers. So there's need to have some balance. There's need to have some regulations, but we have to make sure that there's a good balance and that we're not boxing out those small business owners. Because again, we are the backbone of this state. I don't know if y'all know this, but small businesses employ more than half of the state's workforce. It's private workforce. Small businesses employ them. So we have to make sure that we do what we can to support the small business environment. And rolling back regulations is a big part of it. Now, I will say this. You will hear Republicans talking about the same thing. But most of the time, what they're talking about, they're listening to special interests, they're listening to those large corporations and to the lobbyists, and they're more focused on those bigger regulations because those are the folks who can hire the lobbyists to advocate for changes. What I'm talking about is yes, let's look at that, but really focus in and hone in on the people in this room, those small business owners that are employing 10, 20, 100 people who don't have the resources to hire a lawyer, don't have the resources to hire a lobbyist to advocate on their behalf down at the Capitol.
Oh, just going back to that, being a small business owner as well and talking about the red tape and having local regulations in state, federal, ARP just jumps out because we had a situation where I'm pretty technologically savvy. Yeah. And as a business owner applying for the ARP grant, it was a nightmare. And I can go on the internet. I know how to go on the internet and search and upload, whereas someone that might be a mom and pop organization, they didn't have all that savvy. And so a lot of businesses closed because of that red tape where, like, as you said, they didn't have the funds to hire a lobbyist or a lawyer to do that for them. So that's why we saw a lot of local businesses close because of that. So to hear that you are going to work towards making that process better is heartwarming. And it sounds strange, but it is very heartwarming because, like I said, if you are frustrated with the process or you've heard from somebody else that it's hard, I'm just not going to do it, and you close because of frustration, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have people in these offices that are living through these experiences, have lived through these experiences and understand what's happening, right? Me being a small business owner, I know what it's like to open a small business and have to navigate local government and county government and state government. I literally did it just a couple weeks ago when we opened our second location in Macon. I know what it's like to help a large company navigate what's happening at the federal level and at the state level. And when we are legislating, when we are policy making, it's important for us to have people that understand that from various perspectives so that we can make government work better for us. And that ultimately, that's what we should be looking for in our state government, is one that works effectively and efficiently for the people that it is intended to serve. And that's the people sitting in this room.
Okay. Small businesses can't grow without a strong team. How do you plan to support workforce development and help tackle labor shortages many are facing?
Yeah, so look, I talked earlier about making sure that our workforce has the support that it needs, that the safety net is there, and we have to tackle the issues around affordability in the state. Georgia has gotten too expensive, way too expensive, and that's not an Atlanta issue. That is a Columbus issue, it's a Cuthbert issue, it's an Americus issue. You can go to Valdosta and it's expensive. It's expensive all over the state. So we have to tackle affordability. That means making sure that we're addressing affordable housing. And when I say affordable housing, I'm not just talking about low-income folks. I'm talking about small houses, big houses, mid-sized houses. I'm talking about apartments, single-family homes, tiny homes. We need all of it. And we need to make sure that folks can afford, whether they're making 6 figures or making 5 figures, they need to be able to afford a place to stay. They need to be able to afford a safe roof over their head. The other thing that we need to do is make sure that they can afford childcare. It costs more to send your child to a childcare center than it does to Columbus State University. That makes no sense, because those folks need to work, which is why we have 1/3 of parents in this state who either get fired or they quit. And by the way, most of them are women. They get fired or they quit because they can't afford childcare. That has to stop. It's not only an education, academic issue for the children, it's an economic issue for those parents. The other thing we have to do is expand access to health care, health insurance. We talk about expanding Medicaid. We have to do much more than that. We have to expand access to affordable private insurance. We have to make sure that we have more clinics, especially in rural Georgia, so that people can stay healthy and they can actually go to work. There's no reason that people should not be able to go to work because they have chronic conditions that are being untreated. Expanding access to affordable health care, by the way, would help a lot of small business owners. Because as y'all know, small business owners can't necessarily afford to provide health care. I know that firsthand. I wish I could provide health care. It's too expensive. It would literally bankrupt our company if we did it. There's just no way. What can the state do instead? In addition to expanding Medicaid, it could provide incentives for small businesses to provide health care and provide other benefits, whether it's through tax credits or deductions. It could help subsidize what we know as Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. In Georgia, it's called Georgia Access. We can subsidize those premium payments so that folks can buy their own health insurance. But what we need to do is make sure that more people are covered so that they can stay healthy. If we tackle those issues around housing, around healthcare, around childcare, housing to me is related to transportation. We need to improve our transportation systems. And literally this morning, I received a text at 7 o'clock in the morning from someone who missed the bus, and they said they were going to be an hour late because the next bus doesn't come for 45 minutes. In Macon, Georgia, that's a real problem. In Columbus, Georgia, that's a real problem. It's something that we have to think about when we're thinking about having a strong workforce. And then the last thing that I'll say is an issue that's near and dear to my heart as an educator is education. We have to make sure that we're providing our young adults in particular, but even those who want to change careers, with real options. What do I mean by that? I mean making sure that if a kid wants to go to college, that not only do they have the Hope Scholarship, but they also have needs-based scholarships so that they can actually finish. Too many of our students are graduating with student loan debt, and some of them are graduating or not graduating with student loan debt. That's unacceptable in a state that has $16 billion in a surplus sitting in a state bank account, and over $2 billion sitting in the Georgia lottery account that is not being used to benefit our children. But if kids don't want to go to college, we should also make sure that we have a strong technical college system that is supported by the governor and cheer-led by the governor, right? We should be cheerleading for our technical college system as much as we cheerlead for Georgia State and Georgia Tech and CSU, and making sure that we have a strong pathways to good-paying jobs through apprenticeship programs. They can start in high school in an apprenticeship program, and by the time they graduate high school, spend a year training on site and have a good paying job at the end of that program. There are programs like that all across the country. We should be making sure that we are investing in those programs here in Georgia. I believe that if we do that, we will have a better trained workforce. We will have a workforce that is healthy, is safe, and energized to go to work each and every day. And most importantly, we will have people all across this state that feel empowered to provide for themselves economically, to provide for their families, and that's going to help all of us.
Okay. All right. You alluded to this earlier about the challenge with funding. Another major challenge is funding. What will you do to improve small businesses' access to capital and open more federal and state procurement opportunities?
Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to do is establish a fund of at least $1 billion that will be used to help provide small business owners with low interest capital. And I think that's incredibly important because, as I mentioned, the number one barrier for small businesses to open or grow is access to capital. So I think that's number one. The second thing we have to do is make things fairer for small businesses. We have to allow them to compete and ensure that they have a fair shot at getting state contracts. That means making sure that we're communicating better, that we don't treat state government like a country club, that we are communicating opportunities through chambers, including this chamber. We have to make sure that we are providing more information sessions for small business owners all across the state on how to apply. We have to cut that red tape as well, because if you have a 1,000-page contract, how is a small business owner supposed to navigate all that, right? That may mean breaking down into chunks some of these state contracts to make sure that small business owners can participate. Not only that, what I want to see happen is small business owners get meaningful, substantive opportunities to do the work. Because what's happening right now is that there are a lot of bigger companies that are contracting with small businesses, saying, hey, come on as a consultant so that we could say that we have you on board, and in exchange we'll give you a payment. Well, that's fine for the payment, but you're not getting any experience. So that when that next opportunity comes around, you can't say, here's what I have experience in, because you weren't doing the work. The big company was. I want to make sure that small business owners are getting those opportunities in government contracting so that they can have that real substantive experience, so that they can actually win the bid outright and not have to just come on as a subcontractor to a much bigger company. I think if we do those things, leveling the playing field on the state government side, making sure that we're providing economic opportunity by providing low interest loans, that our small business environment will be much stronger and provide the folks in this room many more opportunities. The last thing I will say is we have to leverage chambers like this. We have to leverage black chambers all across the state. My wife and I didn't have a blueprint. And what I've learned is that sharing information is power. And too often, our communities don't talk. We don't tell each other what we should be doing in order to succeed. Chambers like this does, which is why it's so important. We have to share more information. We have to give people the blueprint to success. So that means having a governor that understands that and that partners with organizations like this to make sure that the people are getting the information they need to be successful.
Okay, so I have two more questions. This one is involving equity and inclusion, kind of leads into what you just said. Representation matters in business. how will you ensure that small businesses' voices are heard and integrated into policy making?
Yeah, so a couple ways to do that immediately is, one, to make sure that we are actually listening to small business owners. We have a small business council in the governor's office that is comprised of small businesses and small business owners, and that they have the ear of the governor. I think that's important, having that representation, having a seat at the table, and ensuring that they can talk to the governor about legislative issues and policy issues that are impacting the small business community. I think it's also important to make sure that the governor is not only going to the Georgia Chamber, but is also engaging with your members as well, mm-hmm. because there's not necessarily overlap there, right? So we need to make sure that we are going all across the state and engaging with the organizations that are representing those small business owners. The other thing we have to do to make sure that people are included is we have to open up opportunity, like we talked about with the prior question, mm-hmm. with state contracts and with jobs that small business owners can bid for, and give them those opportunities. So I think that if we have the voices of small business owners inside the governor's office, if we have the voices, if we have the governor going directly and engaging with those folks in communities across the state, that there can be a much better dialogue and, as a result, better outcomes for our small business environment.
And I said 2 questions, but this is an aside because I'm part of this, the Rural Community Committee for the Georgia State Chamber. And one of the things that I noticed there was a lack of diversity there. We do have a lot of rural communities that are minority heavy. Yep. So what are the plans for the rural communities? Because I know they're about to be hit hard as far as hospitals in rural areas. Access to rural communities as far as funding is concerned is probably lesser than what we have here in Columbus. So what are your plans for rural communities across Georgia?
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important to establish that small business loan fund, and ensure that entrepreneurs and small business owners in vulnerable communities like rural parts of the state have access to that capital, because a lot of those financial institutions don't. Mm-hmm. Those banks are too small and they don't want to necessarily take the risk. Having the backing of the state government will help them do that. So we have to make sure that they have access to more capital. But the other thing is, and I want to focus in on South Georgia, because I think South Georgia has been ignored and is bearing the brunt. For those of you who may not know, the food insecurity crisis that we have in South Georgia is amongst the worst in the country, where 1 in 4 children don't know where they're going to get their next meal in rural Georgia. So if we want to have a vibrant small business environment and a business environment generally, we have to make sure the people are okay, right? We have to make sure that they have access to good paying jobs, that they have economic development coming into the region, that they have access to hospitals, which is why I'm also proposing that we open healthcare hubs across rural Georgia so that people don't have to drive 2 hours just to get primary care. As I was talking to somebody earlier today, I mean, imagine being pregnant and giving birth at any day, yet when you start feeling that pain, you have to drive a couple hours to get to the hospital. It's one of the reasons why Georgia has one of the worst maternal mortality rates in the country, and especially for Black women, mm-hmm. where it is more dangerous to have a baby here for Black women in Georgia than it is some third world countries. So that's something that if we invest in the safety net that we have in our communities, that we're supposed to have in our community, if we invest in those things that I talked about earlier, healthcare, childcare, affordable housing, because rural Georgia needs affordable housing, quality housing as well. If we invest in transportation, then we can help bring up those areas. But I will tell you this, no one is coming to save rural Georgia. Mm-hmm. It's those small business owners that are going to do that, which is why we have to do what we can to support our small businesses. Because when you drive through Main Street in any one of these small towns across South Georgia, it's not some big corporation.
Small businesses.
It's a small business that is helping to revitalize and keep those areas going. So we have to do what we can to support those entrepreneurs, support those risk takers in their belief and their dream for their town.
Okay. Finally, I wanted to touch on something beyond business. For voters who feel disconnected with the political environment and whatever, it doesn't matter, what would you like to say to them?
Look, I would tell them I feel them. There's a lot of reason to feel disaffected and disenchanted by what's happening, whether it's in Washington, D.C. or otherwise. If you pay attention to our politics, then you see a whole bunch of people that are putting politics ahead of people. Yep. And as a result, a lot of our people are being left behind. And what I would tell them is that we have this opportunity next year by electing me as governor to elect someone who prioritizes people over the politics, to have someone that understands that we have to address root causes and not put a Band-Aid over all of our problems. And someone who believes that rising tides lift all boats. If we work together to build a state government that understands that rising tides lift all boats and that we should all get a fair shot, we should treat our neighbor like we want to be treated, then we could build a state that ensures that regardless of who you are, regardless of where you live, you have the opportunity to thrive. Not based on luck, not based on blessings, but also based on your work. If you work hard in this state, you should have the opportunity to thrive. And for too many, they don't have that opportunity. We can change that by voting in the right people, and we have that opportunity next year with this election. So it's one of the reasons that I am doing the work that I'm doing, crisscrossing the state, talking to voters, meeting them where they are, and telling them about how we can keep and grow the money in their pocket. Because voters, in addition to being disaffected by what's happening, they also feel like politicians aren't talking to them. Mm-hmm. They aren't speaking to their issues. That's why I'm laser focused on economic issues. Because I feel strongly at the end of the day, what people want is they want to be able to have a roof over their head. They want to have food at their table. They want to enjoy their lives a little bit, right? And they want to make sure that their kids or their grandkids or their niece and nephews have more opportunities than what they had. That's what people want to talk about. And that's why I'm so focused on economics. And I believe that if we do that, if we focus in on economics and we meet people where they are, that we will mobilize and organize those voters who may not have voted in last year's election and get them out. And if we do get them out to vote, we're going to change the face of leadership in this state.
Thank you. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone that joined us this afternoon. Senator Esteves, thank you for coming and speaking on your platform and letting us know what your goals are when you become governor.
With your help.